Welcome everyone to another fantastic podcast episode with myself, Caroline Maria from itstimefforme.ie. I am so excited to have Tracy Donegan with us today. Tracy is a midwife and entrepreneur from Dublin who is passionate about changing mindsets when it comes to pregnancy, birth and early parenting. It's been her full-time work since 2006, and 3 years ago herself, her husband and her two boys moved to California to develop their program further and launch the Gentle Birth app, which they call Brain Training for Birth. Having partnered with Deepak Chopra, Tracy is excited to spread her work and teachings even more around the world, and I'm really delighted to welcome her today. So thanks a million, Tracy, for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Caroline.
It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and something very different, I feel, in terms of the podcast interviews and episodes that I've done. But I feel from speaking to you before and looking at your work and listening to you talk as well, I think this is an area that really needs to be spread for women to be able to, I suppose, empower themselves a little bit more when it comes to pregnancy and to birth and early parenting as well. So would you like to just introduce yourself to everybody a little bit, tell them about yourself and how you created the Gentle Birth program?
Sure, thanks, Caroline. Well, as you said, I'm a midwife, trained in the Irish system, so very familiar with having a baby in Ireland. I was kind of introduced to kind of the birth world on the birth of my first little fella who's now 14 and getting taller than me. When we were in California, 14 years ago, and I had a doula, and a doula is a birth professional that supports parents through pregnancy, is with you continuously through the birth, and can really help you after the birth as well to have the best experience possible. And it's somebody that knows the system, can help you make decisions, and really have kind of as close to what you would like to have for your birth experience. So that kind of set me on the path with my first little fella. Had him in hospital, and not long after we ended up moving out to Singapore. And we're in Singapore for a couple of years. I had kind of gotten bitten by the birth bug there, and kind of reevaluated what I wanted to be doing next with my life as a mother, and kind of as my profession as well. So, 2 years in Singapore, we ended up coming back to Ireland, and in Singapore, I did my doula training, and I also trained as a hypnobirthing instructor. And really, for the first time, my eyes were opened to how powerful our minds are when it comes to birth and parenting. And came back to Ireland, started teaching, taught hypnobirthing for about a year. But I just felt like, women needed more tools, and hypnosis does not work for everybody. So I wanted to give them like a full toolkit of physical comfort measures and what we call brain training for birth. So we cover hypnosis, meditation is a big part of it, and I'm always joking about it. It's because when people hear meditation or mindfulness, they kind of eyes roll a little bit and they think, it's that airy fairy or new age stuff. And so one of my goals is to bring meditation from the mountaintop down to the main street, so that women understand how even a few moments of being present and focused in your life literally changes your brain structure. And in pregnancy, that's a big deal, and it's something that we're not focused on enough. So I developed Gentle Birth. We added lots of sports psychology to it. So when you come to one of our workshops, you won't just learn about how to navigate Irish system, what are the signs of labor. You'll learn how to make your brain work for you. And the dads love the sports psychology. When you're learning, okay, so what does Conor McGregor do mentally to prepare for a fight? What does Wayne Rooney do when he's getting ready for the cup final? So it really speaks their language. So the dads then realize how important their role is on the day. Because in Irish maternity services, we have sidelined the dads or it might be a female birth partner, but we've sidelined them for so long, and they really want to be engaged, they want to be involved, but nobody's given them the tools to provide their partner with what I call meaningful support. So a lot more than just holding your partner's hand on the day. So I developed Gentle Birth. Gentle Birth launched in 2006. We had books and CDs, and the program just grew and grew. and always word of mouth.
Yeah.
So women would come to the workshop with their partners, and literally it's a transformation that we see. They come spend a weekend with us, and they leave, they bounce out of the workshop.
Yeah.
And looking forward to the birth, and we know how effective this weekend is. And I know people think, oh, I have to give up a whole weekend, but here we are, the biggest event of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a joke with the dad, say, if you were, think of, your favorite football player, think about the mental and physical practice that they put in to preparing for a football match. And all they're doing is, I know I might offend some of your listeners here, but all they're doing is kicking a piece of rubber or a piece of leather around the field.
Yeah.
You're about to welcome your baby onto this planet. So giving up a weekend, really not a big deal. But when we know that, at the end of that workshop, when the dads come up to us and they say, what, I wish our due date was sooner.
Mm-hmm.
We know there's been a huge shift in mindset in literally a couple of hours, and they're excited about the birth. And I'm sure their friends and family are probably, they're rolling their eyes thinking, oh yeah, sure, just you wait. But they are, it's so amazing to see parents excited about not just meeting their baby, but excited about labour, about using their toolkit and putting everything that they learned in the workshop into action on the day itself. So that's the workshop, and then I ended up, as we say, in for a penny, in for a pound. I went back to school, and I spent 4 years training to be a midwife. And right in the middle of that training, because I take my midwifery training very seriously, I had another baby.
Okay.
So Cooper arrived at the end of my second year of midwifery training, and it was just an incredible experience. I did decide this time around to have a home birth. Had a midwife, had a doula as well, and it was just an incredible experience. It was not pain-free, and I will say to anyone who asks me, the most painful part of the labour was at one point when I was in the pool, and my wonderful, and I say that with all affection and joy for my gorgeous husband, he poured a big pot of scalding hot water into the pool.
Oh my God.
To top it up while I was in it. You can imagine the kind of language that came out of me. So I wasn't very calm, confident, in control for those couple of moments. But the rest of it, we have it on video. I look like I'm asleep for most of the labour, and it was just incredible. But gentle birth is not about home birth.
Yeah.
It's about women having the best experience possible wherever they have their baby. And as I laugh about it, we've had women that have had their babies on the side of the M50.
Yeah.
Right? Now, to a first-time mother, if you're listening to this or you're planning your baby for next year, that would strike terror into most people. They're thinking, oh, that's like the worst thing I could imagine.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is we want to prepare parents for whatever cards they're dealt on the day.
Yeah.
So for some women, because when we talk about kind of, our brains are wired to focus on worst case scenario, and even more so in pregnancy. So it's called a negativity bias. So we help parents retrain that negativity bias so they recognize it when it comes up, and they realize, oh, that's just, it's like the factory settings on your phone.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, yeah, I can just, we're going to change that negativity bias. So my focus is on, first of all, the fact that most healthy women, healthy babies will go on to have very normal, straightforward births.
Yeah.
But when you're watching, one born every minute, that plays into that fear, and there's so much fear around birth. But when we have our gentle birth mums, and they, in the gentle birth group, they're posting saying, I had the most incredible birth experience. And as you read down through the story, and the punchline is, and he was born in the car. It's not, people are expecting, oh, you should have been traumatized, and but the parents are so well prepared and so flexible in their mindset that they feel, and one of our kind of taglines is control the controllables.
Yeah.
So there is a lot about having a baby that you do have control over, so much you don't have control over, but the one thing that you have control over is how you respond to what's happening in that moment.
Yeah.
So you can let the birth plan fly out the window. You can take on board that panicked response and let it, I guess, run the rest of the experience, or you can take a moment with your partner, and that's why it's so important to get the partners trained up, because they will recognize it happening. Yeah. So we call them, if you have a wobbly moment, you have a wobbly moment, the partners jump in, they know exactly what to do to help mom to switch out of that circuitry of the brain which is associated with that panicked response, and into the circuitry of the brain that's associated with calming down, feeling connected, and being able to make decisions then that you might have to make on the way to the hospital, or if your baby arrives unexpectedly at home. So let's give them the tools so they can handle anything that comes their way on the day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think I've written down so many things that you've said. I think the way you described having a full toolkit and being able to recognise, like I wrote that word down, is there, negativity bias, which I think all of us have in everyday life anyway. It's like, I call it like our default setting, we go back to that.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have something for people through training and through your app that allows people to, like you said, control what's in their control and be prepared then as best as they can mentally for maybe the things that come up that they're not prepared for. Because like every birth, every pregnancy, every labour, everything is different for everybody. And I think sometimes, when we have so much information being thrown at us at the moment. So like you said, watching One Born every minute, or, reading about the horror stories of birth and everything can be very frightening. So I think what you're trying to create there, from what I can understand from what you're saying, is a positive, practical tool as well to help you, which is brilliant.
And the funny thing is, when you first announce that you're delighted, you're excited, we're having a baby, people cannot wait to tell you the scary stories. Or, Auntie Betty will, corner you, on Christmas morning and tell you about her 60-hour labour. Yeah. One of my instructors, Lisa Byrne, was talking about this the other day with me, and she said, it would be like, if you met your neighbour on the street and she told you, I'm going to have a hip replacement next week, you wouldn't say to her, oh, that's awful, oh, the complications with that surgery, you're going to be in so much pain, God love you. Nobody would ever say that. You would reassure them, you would say, that's fantastic, I hope it all goes great for you. Yeah. But we think that with pregnant moms that we have license to really to scare them, and I just think we need to be a little bit more mindful. When you meet someone that's pregnant, that you share something uplifting with them and positive, because they're getting enough of the negativity everywhere.
Absolutely. And I have never been pregnant before, but from my understanding and things that I've read, really the health of yourself and creating the health of a baby is so important, obviously pre-pregnancy. So in your preparation state as well. I suppose, how can people prepare themselves mentally for pre-pregnancy? So there's a few things on this. For me personally, I have been talking about having a baby for about 3 years and still haven't actually gone and have done a few things about it. But for me, I would have been told about 3 years ago as well, that I had borderline polycystic ovaries. Now all my tests are fine and everything's perfect, but it put the fear in me that I felt this is going to stop me. So it's like I would sabotage myself from actually fully trying or doing the things that I need to do to make sure I'm in my best self, because the fear is there. So that would be one thing that would block me. And then I know from friends and other people I've talked to, my own clients as well, trying to make the time. Is it the right time for me to have a baby? And is it going to be okay? And should I do this at this point? And then again, the fear comes up. It's like you're trying to pre-plan something you can't really even pre-plan, in a sense. It's going to happen when it happens, so to speak. So would you have any tips on how to work on your mindset pre-pregnancy? Trying to get pregnant or starting to think of getting pregnant?
Well, I think, first of all, we look at the physically. I mean, and I would hope kind of everybody would be aware that, like, physically you want to get yourself into good shape. So, the cigarettes, cutting down on the alcohol, getting yourself into physically good shape, because it's going to support this pregnancy when it happens. So it's always a good idea to start with the physical fitness. The mental fitness, the interesting thing when we look at kind of pregnancy numbers is that around half of all pregnancies are actually unplanned.
Okay, wow.
So, there's a lot of women there who will find themselves unexpectedly pregnant, and of course you hear the stories then about somebody's been trying for months or years, and then somebody else says, "Oh, we were thinking about it." Next thing, I got the positive pregnancy test. So, but I think if you've set the intention that we'd really like to consider having a baby next year, I think there's a point where you've got to it's like taking that step, jumping out of a plane. You've got your parachute on, you're kind of standing at the edge, and I think what people will say is that, is there ever a good time? Is there ever the perfect time to have a baby? And what we are seeing is that women are putting it off more as well, and they're waiting until they're, we want to wait until we have paid off more of the mortgage, or until I've got this promotion, or but I think putting out the intention that I'm open to this happening, and welcoming this baby into our lives. And really, it's about, for me, it's about that openness and starting to think about life with a baby, because it's a huge transition, and starting to see yourself as a mother, as and that shift in sometimes in your identity as well, professionally, is a big part of it. But I think looking forward to, I guess, huge life changes, and I think sometimes when for women who they put out that intention and are planning a baby, I think when you first get that test, there is a moment, no matter how excited you were to want a baby, there's a moment of absolute terror when you realize, okay, we're doing this, and it's like you're getting on a roller coaster, and we're strapped in, we're ready for the ride of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds really good. And just on that as well, when you're talking about trying to be open to it, something I did was I only joined Instagram a couple of months ago, so I'm not massive into social media, but I did join it, and I started liking loads of baby pages, and mother pages and new mother pages and everything, to really try and to get some visual in my mind of where I want to be and everything. So it is really interesting. And yesterday when I went to the supermarket, I saw 3 sets of twins within the space of a couple of minutes. And I was like, there's something really weird happening here.
No, I'm not sure you want to put that on your twins are beautiful, but more work and
a lot more work. So something you said there, which was really interesting statistic, is that 50% of pregnancies are unplanned. So say you have yourself ready and you feel like you're ready to have a baby, and then you get pregnant, or say you're in that 50% and it wasn't planned and it happens, and then you're in pregnancy mode now, and you're pregnant and you're looking for it, and maybe there are a lot of fears coming up, or like you said earlier on, somebody pulls you aside, the aunt at the Christmas party, to tell you the horror stories and all of these things, and you're just you could be completely excited to be pregnant, but all of the worries comes up. So how does your work help to, I suppose, calm women, make them feel more balanced and more in control of the experience to enjoy it?
And I think especially in that first trimester, because unfortunately there is a high rate of miscarriage in the first trimester, and sometimes even before the woman really realizes she's actually pregnant, it can actually happen. But I think the first trimester especially can be difficult, because first of all, a lot of women, they won't share that they're pregnant. So it's a very traditional Irish thing as well, that we'll wait until we've had the big scan, or wait until we're through that first trimester, and then we'll share the news. So what parents can do, for especially those first trimester mums, is they can download the app and get started literally from the moment they get that positive pregnancy test. Actually, they can start the app before that. There's preconception content as well, because reducing that stress, but still letting yourself be excited, and starting to develop that positive mindset early in pregnancy is really, really important. There's so much happening developmentally to your baby in those first 12 weeks that we shouldn't be waiting until we've kind of announced it before we start doing this kind of brain training and reducing stress as much as we can. We can't avoid stress. I'd love to think that we could take all the mums off to a beautiful tropical island where they'll enjoy their pregnancies with no stress. But there's chronic stress, and there's actually good stress as well. So a little bit of stress is actually good for us.
Yeah.
But if you're in the first trimester and you're not sleeping and you're worried, and I think, using these tools to help, again, shift the mindset to, start to accept that this is happening, and all you control at the moment is how you're responding to what's happening. And I do think that maybe we need to kind of shift that attitude as well, that we start talking about pregnancy when we, earlier, because with the high rates of spontaneous miscarriage, that if a woman is going through this and nobody else knows, she's hard for her to get support if she actually does experience a miscarriage. But if she has told people, even though it's very difficult, to go through that experience, and it's very difficult to share that news, she'll have support, and it's so much more common than people let on, and she will get support, which she's really going to need in that first trimester.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, and I know we'll talk about this probably later on, but anyone that experiences trauma like after birth as well, so even having a healthy baby and then maybe they experience postnatal depression or a very difficult birth, which we will talk about later on, the effect on that and how people and women, I should say, need support in that also, and the preparation for that. So as people or women, I should say, going through their pregnancy, and all of the things that they can do, how can they prepare for, now, like you said earlier, you can't prepare for like a perfect birth because that doesn't probably exist for everybody, but how can you prepare for the actual birth? So to come into a place of feeling like you're going to be able to control the controllables, as you said, respond to what is happening, be able to deal with those wobbly moments, and I suppose alleviate some of the fear, because a lot of people, particularly first-time mothers who haven't gone through the experience and don't know what to expect, what can they do to prepare for this event, like you called it, or it's a huge life event,
Yeah. I think a couple of things that, our focus really being on positive birth, and a positive birth that's defined by the mother herself. So, because some people think, a positive birth, but then that means it has to be natural, or you can't have an epidural. A gentle birth, our philosophy, and myself as a midwife, my philosophy has always been that a positive birth comes in many different forms, and what a positive birth is for you might look different to your neighbour down the street. So it's about, being inclusive of all birth experiences. So that could be a very calm, lovely, planned cesarean for one woman. It could be an epidural for somebody else. It could be, at home in the pool for somebody else. So it's acknowledging that every woman's going to have a very different experience, and we want to support her in whatever that experience is for her as much as possible. So really find your tribe, surround yourself with like-minded women who see this as, this can be an incredible experience in your life, an absolutely transformative, life-changing experience. And what we want to have women do is we want women remembering their births for all the right reasons.
Yes. Yeah.
And feeling like, wow, I did that, no matter what the experience was, and I stacked the odds in my favor of this going as well as it possibly could.
Yeah.
So that there's no regret, there's no guilt. You and your partner have done everything you can to stack the odds. And then if something comes up that was unexpected or out of left field on the day, there's no guilt.
Yeah.
There is much more acceptance of, what else could we do? Yeah. And we used the tools on the day, and we realized, there was going to have to be a change of our plans. And we have great midwives, we had a brilliant consultant, and we had to, just to go with the flow and let the experts look after us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think guilt, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just saying, guilt is a huge part of it. I joke saying, it's when, they take the baby out and they put the guilt in.
Yeah. Very good.
But we were very hard on ourselves, especially first-time mothers, because we have this expectation that we should know it all, and we should be able to cope with no sleep, and we should be able to breastfeed with no problem. And then if things don't work out that way, we beat ourselves up. And I think it's time for Irish women to put down the stick and be a little bit more self-compassionate and a lot more gentle with themselves and their new babies.
Absolutely. I know for friends of mine that have had babies, the guilt thing would be one of the first things you hear after, you know, whether it was something to do with the birth or how things have been after the birth. And really being really, really, really hard, no compassion for themselves and everything they've done to that point. So I think it's a really, really good point you've brought up there for women to know that not everything is going to be within their control. And like you said, taking as much control as you can for the things you are in control of, and then, like, you know, having to let it go for the other sides of those things. And I think if there probably was a lot less guilt, there probably would be a lot less stress on themselves and the baby as well, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. So I would say, like, find your tribe. Definitely use the app just simply to retrain your focus and your mindset, so that you start to, when you think about the labor, that you don't cringe, or you don't put your head in the sand in denial that it's coming, you know, in 32 days. And that you start to feel more relaxed about it, more confident about it. Consider hiring a doula so you have extra support, you know, in your pregnancy as well, because it's one thing when you're in the office and you're talking about your hemorrhoids and your swollen ankles, and everyone's looking at you like nobody wants to hear that, or your constipation. So your doula can be, you know, they want to hear all about, you know, how your pregnancy is going. They want to support you, and as much as the midwives, you know, want to be able to give you that emotional support on the day. They don't know you, they haven't met you, and so your midwife is a stranger. And you know, I can say this honestly as a midwife myself, the doula part of the work, the emotional support, is the part of the job that midwives love the most. But we know that, look, the HSC, you know, midwives are very stressed, overstretched. They don't often get the opportunity to give that ongoing one-to-one support, because the clinical care is priority and documentation. And so when we see a doula coming in and working with the midwives are like, it's a sigh of relief, because they know, great, this couple have got loads of support, and you know, we all work together as a team. So consider having a doula, definitely. Get along to some of the gentle birth meetups. We hold them in Costa Coffee all around the country, usually kind of once or twice a month. And it's just a chance, again, to hang out with like-minded people. Have a cup of coffee, have a piece of cake or two, and it just builds on that positivity as well, because again, they're going to get all the scary stories in work that, you know, people can't wait to tell them, and culturally as well. So just to find that space where they can connect with other women physically, of course, you know, getting yourself out there, exercise. And we know that exercise in pregnancy, so good for women, so good for babies. So get out, get to the swimming pool, go up to the I think the NAC does the aqua aerobics. It's very gentle on the body, and especially coming towards the end of the pregnancy, when you're feeling so much kind of bigger and heavier, and you get into the swimming pool, and please don't be thinking, I'm not getting into swimming togs the size of me. Nobody will be looking at you thinking, but I'm telling you that you step into that pool and you lose like 90% of your body weight. The relief of just being weightless in the water is just fantastic. And you can get a bit of exercise in, you'll sleep great that night as well.
That's fantastic. They're really great tips for people to take on and hopefully integrate through their whole pregnancy, you know, that way, so they're in a more balanced place in every way, in their physical self as well as their mental self, you know.
And the app is because we know everyone is busy these days, and especially, you know, people are busy in work, they're already kind of overscheduled with, you know, other commitments. So we're not going to overload them. So when they go into the app, they'll have like their kind of, it's daily recommended training. So depending on what your kind of journey is. So let's say you were pregnant with twins. When you're setting up your profile, you will check twins, and all of the content that's presented to you is going to be focused on having a positive experience with your twins.
Yeah.
So you might just do 5 minutes of mindfulness and some hypnosis later on in the evening when you're going to bed. So you don't have to find a lot of extra time to actually do this preparation, other than if you're going to go to a workshop, you're going to probably spend a weekend with us.
Yeah.
But if you're doing the app, and you can do the app on its own as well, if you've taken other classes, and just to do your little bit of daily training, you ticked your box, and it literally might have only been like a 10-minute meditation, or because most of the mums will do their hypnosis at night time, and then the women they're delighted because they sleep like logs, and getting a good night's sleep when you're 36 weeks pregnant is a skill, I'll tell you.
So I think that's brilliant. So you're providing workshops for people to go, but also the app like that. You're just saying there for 5 or 10 minutes a day, they're actually preparing themselves in a really positive, balanced, healthy way through their mindset and their body. It's a fantastic resource that you have. And just something probably to the side of what we've been talking about, what's the message that you wanted to spread? When you set up the gentle birthing program, it was guidebooks and your CDs and everything, and now it's developed into your app, but what is the intent and message that you want to give to women through all of your content?
Well, I guess one of the reasons we decided to kind of put everything in that digital format is because these days women want instant access, and the phone, which is we're all addicted to. We're using the phone anyway. Why not be using it for something that's going to literally change your life?
Yeah.
So really, for me, the message was always that this life-changing experience that's coming up for you, maybe in a couple of months or next year, can be the most empowering experience of your life. It will change you.
Yeah. So
will it change you in a positive way or not?
Yeah.
And for too long, we have focused on the negative birth stories, and it's for me, it was about we need to start changing the conversation around birth.
Yes.
That this can be life-changing, life-affirming. And for me, when I think, okay, so let's kind of like granular level. So these women are they're kind of literally resculpting their brains. They are releasing all these great hormones to their baby. So when we talk about newborns, or in pregnancy, your baby is literally marinating in your hormones.
Okay.
So what are the hormones your baby is marinating in your pregnancy? Is it adrenaline and stress? Because we know that changes the baby's brain as well. Okay. So it changes the baby's brain in a way that is more focused on survival, rather than the parts of the brain that are focused on creativity and sound judgment. So there's definitely changes in the baby's brain and their reactivity to stress. So we can encourage parents to, first of all, reduce their own stress. They cannot eliminate stress. Yeah. They can change their relationship with it. So we change that relationship with stress. We've got babies that are coming into the world with a different brain. We have parents with different brains. If they've had a positive birth experience, they're going to parent differently. Yeah. If they've had a great experience, again, whatever that great experience was for them, they are different parents. And, kind of the bigger picture for me is, so parents that are parenting gently are raising a very different child.
Yes, yeah.
And are these children, we're looking at the ripple effect on society. Yeah. So these children are coming into the world being parented much more gently, and it's a society changing event. It's not just one woman having a baby. The knock-on effect of these children being raised confident and empowered themselves. I'm quite sure we're going to see a gentle birth baby become president.
Amazing.
I could say the United States, but we won't go there.
Yeah, definitely not.
But just the bigger picture, I think, for looking at society as a whole. Yeah. What can we do to support women in pregnancy so that they feel confident and empowered, and then become empowered parents?
And for people, for women who have gone through their pregnancy and had a plan of how things wanted to go, and maybe it didn't go to plan, and the guilt set in, and they are in a stressed place after the birth and maybe don't know how to express that or don't have the right supports. And, you know, they're in and out of hospital. They want to get you in and they want to get you out as quick.
Yeah.
And maybe that has had a ripple effect months on, a year on, 2 years on for them. And, you know, and I know we had spoke, you know, off camera before about like the first 3 years of a child's life, and you were talking to me about the brain connection for them. But if the mother is still stressed and still traumatized by certain things, even just that it didn't go to plan, you know, like we can't move forward from that, what's the best thing that they can do for themselves?
As when we talked last week, we were talking about the fact that, you know, those first 3 years of life, it's when most of your baby's brain development is happening for that newborn, and there's new connections forming in their brain. Literally, I think it's like 700 to 1,000 brain connections happening every second of every day for the first 2 to 3 years of life. So we want those babies in being, you know, having consistent care and parents being responsive. And, you know, the thing is that babies are very resilient as well. So, you know, I would hate for parents to be listening in and thinking, you know, I had to go back to work and my baby's goes to creche. That the key message is that if they're being consistently responded to, then we see those connections happening. But there's kind of a new kind of conversation that's happening at the moment within the birth world and parenting world that's looking at infant mental health. So we just assume that, sure, all babies are happy, and sure, what have they got to be, you know, stressed about? But babies get stressed when they're not responded to gently and consistently. They are expecting connection when they're born. So the more, and even in that first hour after birth, the more we can keep mom and baby together, those connections are all starting to fire in the baby's brain, in the mother's brain, and we even see brain changes happening in the partners as well. So for a woman who, if you're not feeling great, and when we say, look, we all have up and down days, and especially with a newborn, if you've had 2 weeks of just not feeling yourself, that I'm not enjoying the baby as much as I really thought I would, I'm not feeling like myself, if it's lasting 2 weeks or more, they need to talk to somebody, they need to get some extra support. Check in with the hospital as well, because some of the hospitals are now running like a birth reflections clinic. So that you can go in and have a chat with one of the midwives, and they'll go through your notes with you and help you understand what happened, why it happened. And sometimes that can be really helpful for somebody who's had a very difficult birth experience, to get that extra support. But the sooner they get it, the better. And the thing is, when we talk about, you know, postnatal depression or anxiety, because anxiety is very common as well in postnatal mums, that it doesn't always mean medication, because you know, sometimes we think, oh, you know, I don't want to be on tablets or whatever. But when we look at the evidence around what you know, for most women who are suffering, I would say, you know, up to moderate anxiety or moderate postnatal depression, there's other things we can do that might not need medication. Now, some women might, but the majority of women will not need medication. So, but getting support, talking to the GP, connect with some of the organizations like Nurture, because the sooner we can do that and have that intervention, the sooner you're going to feel better, and the sooner you're going to be, you know, really connecting with your baby on a much deeper level. And getting out of the house, and especially, you know, when you're coming into winter in Ireland, you know, it's being a new mother can be very isolating. So, and even though the thoughts of, oh, you know, putting on makeup and going out the door, get out to a mother and baby group. Again, it's about finding the tribe, making connections. And I would encourage women to get out and to go to some of these groups, particularly if you're going to breastfeed. Go to a breastfeeding group before you have your baby. So you've got that network already built, and you can show up with no makeup and in your tracksuit pants, and nobody will be any the wiser, you know. And you'll guarantee to be late anyway, as will everybody else, because getting out of the house with a newborn is a challenge, you know. So give yourself plenty of time to get out of the house.
That sounds brilliant. I think I'm so thrilled to have spoken to you. I think the message you're trying to send out into the world and to women and their partners as well is just phenomenal. And for me, just talking to you today, it's even relaxed me around all of the mad thoughts that I have around it. As much as I want it, the brain can take over too much. And I spend my days trying to help people have a more positive mindset and work through their issues. And it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. Sometimes it's just about how you feel. So I think you've gone through so many things there, from preconception right the way through there to the early years. So there's something from everybody there. And I just wish you so much luck with the message that you're spreading. I think it's fantastic. And where can people find out about you? So if they want to get your app or go to a workshop in Ireland, but you're all over the world, because the listeners will be from all parts of the world, not just Ireland.
Yeah, so if they want to, if they're looking for information on, the app they can download from the App Store. So for Apple and Android, they go to Google Play. They'll automatically get a free week, so they can take a week, test drive it, sleep a little better, and kind of get a taste of what we do at Gentle Birth. And if they want to take a workshop, then they can go to gentlebirth.com and they can just search for a workshop in their area. If they're in an area where we don't have an instructor, we've had a couple of expat families who are, we had one family in Jamaica and another family Irish family in Israel. We can connect you in with an instructor who can do a workshop with you on Skype as well if there's no other instructors in the area.
Brilliant. So you're like worldwide, and there's no reason why people can't access it. Like you said, you can provide it on Skype if they need it. It's fantastic. And
that's it, yeah.
And just to add, I have the app as well, and I've been doing the preconception part, and I find it brilliant. So I'm going to put a plug in there to say it's brilliant and people should try it. And you're offering the free week, which is just fantastic as well.
And if anyone's interested in training to become a Gentle Birth instructor, there's an online option, which is it's a video training. Now it's probably about 50 plus hours of video content, so you'll be listening to my voice quite a lot and seeing my face quite a bit. And I'll also be running a live training in Dublin in November. It's a 4-day training. So gentlebirth.com will give you all the details.
Okay. Well, look, Tracy, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to me. And everyone, you can go to gentlebirth.com and look up more of the Gentle Birth program. And again, wish you all the success spreading your message worldwide.
Thanks, Caroline. Best of luck with everything yourself.
Thank you.